Hello everybody and welcome back to this new video. Today we're going to be talking about the ezpz challenge from HackTheBox. It's a web challenge and the description is, can you get the flag? So looking at the website, we see that there's two errors on the page. One saying unidentified index in a PHP file and the other one trying to get property ID of non-objects in that same PHP file. In the source code we also have a hint in a comment saying base64_encode data. So let's get started with these errors. So this first error is a PHP error that occurs when you get some, take a parameter from a GET or a POST request, but you haven't verified that that parameter is actually set. So here that could mean that there's a GET parameter object, and if we set that, then that error goes away. Now this second error was a lot harder to find, but I was able to recreate the error in PHP. So if we JSON decode nothing and then try to get the ID from that object, we see, well, the same error that we had. So that probably means that there's some object and they're trying to get ID from it, but it's that ID is just not a property of that object. So let's try making some ID and setting it to 1 in JSON, but that doesn't work. Well, why doesn't it work? Well, this hint kind of explains it. Base64 encode. So let's try and base64 encode this in burp. So if we do that and add it to the end here, we're going to see another error. Unidentified property ID. And that's because we did lowercase earlier. Could that be the issue? Let's take a look. And yes, that's the issue, and we get a message, good luck, you've got that. This is really going to be an interesting challenge. Now, I have the request in burp, so we can take a closer look at it here. Alright, so if we send it, we get the same stuff. Now, let's take a look at what's happening here. So our current message is this, and that works. So we've walked the happy path of this application. We know how it's meant to be used. Now let's see if we can break it. How do we want to break it? Well, we want to get new errors that we haven't seen yet. Ways that we can try to do that is by, for example, sending a quote. Maybe there's SQL running in the background, and we can that way get an SQL error, see if we can get SQL injection. So let's try that out. And indeed that works. We have a MySQL error. So we know that the database management system as well, as that we probably can have SQL injection. So let's do the most basic SQL injection then, or 1 = 1 and then comments. So that should return, if that works, that should return every row in the current database that it's getting it from. We want to do that in the repeater. We want to go and send that. And we get 3 descriptions. The first one we've already read, then avoid tools if you want to enjoy the challenge, and then go and find the vulnerability. So we have SQL injection right now. We've read everything in the current table. Now what current table? Let's write out what's happening in the backend. So select something from some table where ID equals our input. Now this certain table, of which we don't have the name, we just read everything from that table, or this particular field from that table. Now, since we don't know these, but we do want to read more in the database, we're going to have to use information schema to do that. But in order to do that, we need to be able to append some query to the previous results so they get shown. And we're going to use union for that. So we're going to do union injection. But in order to do a union injection, you have to know the amount of columns being used in this original query. Now, why is that? I'll show you. So if you, let's say this is the original query. It has 2 columns, and we union select another something there. It's going to say the used select statements have a different number of columns. So we want to have equal amounts of columns, and then it's going to append correctly. So we have to figure out how many columns does this query have? Right, so let's figure it out by trying out different amounts, seeing when it errors out and when it doesn't. So first we're going to do a union select 1 to get one column. We are going to basic-C4 encode that and paste that in. And we see that gives us an error, so it's not one column. Well, let's try 2. There are automated ways of doing this, but for the first, trying up until 4 to 5 columns is when I still do it manually. Okay, now we get a different response. It says this request has been blocked by the server's application firewall. So there's some firewall here that's blocking our request. And our previous request, this worked, but comma space 2 added to it made it not work. So the space is probably not it, since there's spaces already in our query. And the comma is the most suspicious. So let's see if just sending a comma triggers that firewall. So just sending a comma. I'm gonna get that off so it doesn't confuse me. Paste that in, send it, and we see, okay, a comma is blocked. So we can't use commas. Well, now we have to figure out how can we do SQL without using commas. And there's this really great GitHub repo for it, payload all the things. They have cheat sheets on just about everything. So let's look at their SQL injection cheat sheet. There we go. And they have this great part saying firewall bypassing. And here they have a section on no comma. So we are in this select. So we did select 1, 2. And they say we can replace it by union select everything from select 1A join select 2B. So let's see if that works out for us. So if we paste that in here. Okay, that looks good. And let's see if that works. Or if that triggers the firewall as well. So if we paste that in, we see we get the number 2. Now what does that mean? Well, that means that in the select we have 2 rows, right? And the second one is going to show our output. Why? Well, in the first one we selected 1, and 1 is not shown in the output. In the second one we selected 2, and 2 is shown in the output. So the second table is being shown. Okay, so we also know it's this MySQL, so let's look if they have a cheat sheet for that as well. So if you scroll all the way back up, they have a MySQL cheat sheet. What do they have here? Union-based, extract database information with information schema. So that's exactly what we want. We want to get, okay, so first we want to get the schema names from information underscore schema.schemata. So let's try that. Select schema underscore name from information schema.schemata. See if that works. If we basic-C4 encode that, send that, we get information schema, ezpz, MySQL, performance schema, and test. Now, ezpz and test are the only interesting ones for me, so let's write those down. We have those schemas. Next up, we want to find out all the columns in the schemas. Let's take a look at how they do it here. So, or all the table names in the schemas. So the from information underscore schema.tables, where table name equals something. Okay. So we're going to start off with this one, modify that. So select table name from information schema dot tables. Where table schema equals, let's start with easy peasy. We'll put that in the decoder and we'll copy that. And we see, oh, we have the firewall is stopping us. So let's see at what was added. So we have table name, tables. We have this where clause. So let's start by removing the where clause, seeing if that does anything for us. So remove the where clause, copy, put it in here, send, and we still get a request blocked. So then we have tables is the only word that's different. So if we remove tables from this table here as well, we copy that. Right now our query isn't going to be valid, but that doesn't matter because we just want to see if it passes the firewall. And this did pass the firewall. So it's something to do with tables. So let's see if just tables is allowed. If we copy that, paste that in here, we see tables is allowed. Maybe it's like information schema.tables. Let's see if it's something with schema.tables. And this is just like removing parts, adding parts, seeing what triggers it and what doesn't until you have the exact words that trigger the firewall. And that triggered the firewall. Let's see if we can remove anything from it. So if we do HEMA, that's not going to trigger the firewall. So what is blocked? Well, we already had our comma that's blocked, and we have schema.tables. That's also being blocked. Alright, so let's see if we can find a way around that. So let's Google MySQL schema.table. Okay. So, okay, they still just use a dot. Oh, but here they use a backtick for that. Let's see if that works. So select table name, table schema from information underscore schema dot tables. So that should work. Okay, that does work. Let's try it with the backticks. Oh, that's a 1. Does that work? That also works. Okay, great. So it sounds like that should work. So let's try that out. So tables, paste that in, see what the result is. Okay, so we get every table back. And this is every table from every schema. Now I know I removed the where clause here, that chose to only select them from ezpz, but that's because where is also blocked from the firewall. Now, according to Payload All the Things, you can also replace where with having, but the issue with that was that we are in this weird select where we can't use commas, and if we were to do having here, saying like table underscore schema equals, that wouldn't work because it wouldn't know table schema, because in having it has to be selected here. So then we would have to select that here, but that would create the issue that we can't use a comma. So that's why we can't do it that way, and we just have to bear with the fact that we are going to have all the information from every schema. But that's fine because we can just look through this, see if we find anything interesting. And well, this is clearly very interesting. Flag table, unguessable, easy peasy. So that's probably a table in easy peasy, I would guess. And well, let's see if that's actually a table in easy peasy. So if we a union select, I'm going to select 1 from easy peasy dot or flag table unguessable. If this works, then we should see 1 on the screen, and then we know, okay, that's a table That's a table within the ezpz schema. If it doesn't work, then it's not there. So let's see. Okay, and that worked. So we know that this is kind of valid. So now we probably want to have all the columns in there. Now, with the columns, we're still going to have the same issue with the where clause. So this is not going to be as clean, but we can do select the column name from information schema, not columns. So let's test that out into the repeater, paste that in, send, and here we have all the columns. Now, there's going to be a lot of them, so let's maybe try searching for flag. We have 4 matches with flag. Oh, here we have flag, easy peasy, SQLI. So let's copy that, and that's then probably going to be a column from there. So now we just need to get that data from there. So if we copy this, we can select this column from that table. And let's see if that gives us the flag. We paste that in, send it, and there we go. We have the flag, HackTheBox 2 easy peasy lame SQL injection filters. So that was a challenge. HackTheBox rated the challenge as easy. The community rated it as about medium. I think this challenge was definitely not that hard. It was definitely with all the filters and stuff, you had to be on your toes and then find inventive ways around these filters. But I think it was a very fun challenge. I really enjoyed it. I'm sad it's going. But yeah, what can you do? I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you back in another one. See ya.